don't understand why you're 40 years old and playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruising through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. But.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
Sony entrance.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Arcade and the Week in Culture. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy. And we're going to be talking about the news of the week, and we should not have any technical problems because I was very, very adamant this time. So anyway, first of all, how are you doing, John?
Oh, I'm awesome as always, aside from, as I was saying right before we got in here, a little bummed out to some degree about the passing of David Lynch. But other than that, life is, for me, it's awesome as always. Actually, a really good week in all sorts of ways. I turned 44 on Tuesday, and my birthday celebration.
You did, or it's coming up?
No. I did. No, I did already.
Well, happy belated birthday.
Oh, yeah, thank you. My birthday actually started like 15 hours earlier. Osaka Chandal wished me happy birthday from Japan, and so I just kind of continued all the way through all the time zones from there because I know people all over the world now. So it was great.
Nice, yeah.
Easily the best birthday in 5 years.
Happy birthday, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Send a super chat to him for his birthday or something, or just subscribe or join the Discord server.
I'll drop the Discord links as I always do.
Yeah.
Although I know most of these people are there already.
Yeah, most likely. So, so that's great. Good to hear. I myself am doing well, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about what's coming up. Like at the end of the show. I like to put that at the end. But let's get into the stories because there's a lot to talk about here. So first, we have, I just want to get this out of the way, the news that Corrine Busche,
as we affectionately call her, we
nice.
affectionately call her Corrine the Minge Bush.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna get the joke out of the way, but she's like a 1980s wrestler.
Corrine Busche, game director for the recently released Dragon Age: The Veilguard, has left BioWare amidst rumors that the Edmonton studio may soon close. Yes, you're right. That person is Canadian, as they always often are. This departure follows a series of disappointing game releases, including Mass Effect Andromeda. Oh my God, what a great video. Do you guys remember the meme video for Mass Effect Andromeda? Anthem, yes. Which was, again, Anthem had every... I can't believe they got that wrong. Like that was like a dream project for gamers, but it was an absolute dud. And now Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which sold significantly below expectations at under 1.5 million copies. Bush's exit was announced in an internal email highlighting the decision by this individual to pursue new challenges in RPG development. Meanwhile, speculation about BioWare Edmonton's closure is fueled by an insider's leak, with the closure potentially being announced in February of 2025, just before EA's quarterly town hall meeting. Oof. This situation casts a dark shadow over the future of the studio, but not Assassin's Creed shadows. That's a different shadow with a different company that has a different, checkered past, and its iconic franchises. So...
I'm sure she'll get a job there.
Yeah.
Just put the final nail in the coffin.
Corrine Busche is, if you guys don't know, this is a trans person, right? This is a trans woman. And
a LARPer,
they basically put that character that's in Dragon Age: The Veilguard is a self-insert, as these are often the case. It's almost always the case that that's what this is. And these games have all highly underperformed. Now, I don't know what Corrine Busche's input was on Anthem, but yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda, the writing was on the wall. I remember when the early leaked footage of that game's, my face is tired and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue, the graphics, the bugs, and all of that.
I jokingly referred to that one.
Yeah,
I jokingly referred to that one as Mass Effect Androgyny, and I think that I think that the sad thing is, like with Anthem, it actually kind of was a harbinger of the downfall of Dragon Age, because they had originally planned on making Dragon Age in the vein of Anthem, as a live service model, doing all that bullshit, and that was the main thing that really killed that game right out of the gate, was the way that they went about just being so predatory with it. And and we still see that even today with other live service model games. And then of course, the Veilguard is, well,
Jesus, you're gonna have to pull a Barv.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Goon Room says, didn't it quit, get fired? Yes. So I'll read the letter so you guys can get this verbatim, and then we can chime in with our thoughts. So this was what was written by Corrine Busche I guess it was an internal email or something that leaked out.
Yep.
Hard to believe I'm writing these words, but here it goes. It's time for me to say goodbye. Today is my last day at BioWare and EA. After so much contemplation, I've decided to pursue a new challenge and a new project, doing what I love most, making RPGs. It wasn't an easy decision, as I mean it when I say I love BioWare, the Dragon Age team, and what we've all accomplished together. My time with you all has been the highlight of my career. Let me
Considering
see.
you made mobile games before working there, yes, I would imagine.
Yeah, I want to offer my personal thanks to each of you for your trust, your companionship, and for the many ways in which you've inspired me and helped me grow. I'll be eagerly waiting to see what great experiences you create next, and as a fan, I'll be rooting for you. If I can leave you with any advice, it's this. We all know making games is hard. It's part of why we do it. But making games is also about the people and the reliance we have on one another. So take the time to celebrate the wins and lift each other up. Toxic positivity. The challenge and the work will always be there, but the moments we have with each other are precious and few. Let's stay in touch, Corrine. So, So I don't know, John, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I've talked about this on a couple other shows this week, and I effectively said that, it was the Ubisoft story that came out this week about how there's 3 classifications of workers there. They've got, of course, their executive structure is terrible and is caught up in a whole bunch of political ideology games, and they tend to, hire people that it's like a sandwich system. There's mid-level developers that actually like making games, and so they don't want to become production heads or team leads or anything like that, because they spend all their days in meetings. And so they have what's called the dead weight at the bottom that basically leapfrogs over the devs that actually just want to do the work, and then they become, higher ups in these control structures. I would imagine this is basically the same thing that happened at BioWare. Is somebody who's led by their ideology and their activism got put into a position that they clearly weren't qualified for, lacking any talent, skill, or ability to actually do the job that was necessary, and decided, oh, this is my place to go and make everybody learn my story. And I don't know if that actually has a place in a medieval-esque kind of role-playing game that's about dragons and such. Well, you kind of see what happened, fairly straightforward. I mean, it was expected to sell, trajectory was at least 10 million, and it topped out at like 1.5, and now they're only at like 10% of their install base, even still playing the game at best. So, the hammer had to fall on somebody, and if you're going to be put in that position, then that's what's going to happen. But they were at least probably kind enough to let Corrine here make an exit that on the surface looks like it was a personal decision, but it was probably one of those things where they're like, resign or you're fired, and took the resignation, which, you know, c'est la vie, you know, like have you know, so long, thanks for nothing. And way to destroy like a couple of like you know, solid properties, and also you know, get something that could have been great never off the ground, and just mothballed away to be exiled through history. So.
Yeah, but John, like in a world where there's like magic and like spells and dragons and all kinds of, why wouldn't there be trans people with scars?
Right.
Why aren't you using your imagination to put my modern politics into stuff?
Right.
There's magic and gods and dimensions. No surgery scars?
Well, anyway. I mean, you know, it is a kind of an interesting kind of take. Like, I just wonder if anybody has played through, you know, Drag Queen Age, the Fail Hard, as I affectionately call it. Is there like a transing center in the game where like the surgeries actually take place, or is it just somebody with like a
in a world of magic?
Right. Somebody with a bone knife just like, you know, carves your tits off and then like sews you up.
Yeah. Because there isn't magic that would change your sex.
Right.
Like, but no. Can't have that. We got to do that the hard way. That's why there should be scars. But no, obviously there are no abortion clinics or transing. Well, you know what? Actually, wait. I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe that was how far they were going to push it. Maybe they were going to have everything that's in the modern world, except it was just in the game and people are just kind of cosplaying, because that's what it feels like.
I'm pretty sure there wasn't, only because I watched Hypnotic when he was doing his gameplay run-throughs, and I think that would have become a topic of the day had anybody actually encountered it, which is all the more reason for why it's so jarring, because it's just like, this doesn't even have any bearing or context within the verisimilitude of the world space, so it all falls apart, you know? So.
Yeah. So there's a bigger picture to this. Corrine Busche is quitting. BioWare is losing money. The rumor is, and I think it's probably true, but we don't know for certain, is that they're going to have to close down their Edmonton location of BioWare. But I don't know if you guys know, but that's the flagship location.
Yeah.
So it's like the main location. And it's only been there for 5 years. Like, they opened it 5 years ago, and it's already looking like it's going to be gone. Okay.
Right, which was the point in time where I believe that's when she took over as the lead, as I understand, according to the history of it all. And they changed it from, it went through, I think, 4 iterations in the design process. And so it's you know, I mean, we could sit here and like, you know, laugh about it, like, you know, endlessly. Unfortunately, you know, like there are a lot of companies that are starting to, you know, introduce terms of services because as much as we want to talk about like DEI being on its way out the door, it's just changing form. This is like, you know, remember a couple months back when we were doing Grand Theft Auto online coverage, and I mentioned the terms and services got a new wording put into it called safety and fairness. And the safety and fairness doctrine has come to destroy everybody's ability to speak freely and openly in forums or anything connected to the game industry at large. And this is happening obviously at 2K. It's also taking place, I believe I saw an article about Activision. Epic Games is making this a thing now. Square Enix, famously this week, I think, for the reasons of Final Fantasy remakes coming to PC, and they don't want people making you know, mods of Tifa. And so if you do that, they're going to consider it a slight against the company and do everything they can to stop you from putting anything like that out. So hey, what did it start in 2025? Yeah. Well,
that's just, look, it's gonna, we're just gonna have to deal with that, because that's
it's the height of desperation.
Like, it is what it is. Yeah, like so I think that as far as that goes, you know, like, I think BioWare has, they dug their own grave. One of the things that, this is kind of like an interesting actually case study of like what usually happens with companies as they get bigger and bigger. Their inevitable fall is, it sort of comes to light when you start like taking your success for granted. You start
Right.
acting as though you can't fail. You start acting as though you have your customers locked in. And this could be
Right.
anywhere, right? Or the people who succeed you, they don't know what it took to build the company because they're just sort of inheriting, all of the fruits of all the hard work of the people who started it. So if you were a big fan of the original Mass Effect or the original Dragon Age games,
Yeah, those people aren't there.
Don't be upset. Yeah, those people don't work there anymore. Or if they do, they seem to have lost touch of what it was that people liked about their content. And they're not going to be able to reproduce that. So you're just going to have to find it somewhere else. But I imagine, a lot of people who, used to work at some like giant conglomerate company, they go and start something similar. And usually at a smaller scale, they tend to know what worked. It's not always the case because I know the guy who, for example, the created Mega Man for Capcom, he went on to make like Mighty Number 9 and it just... It wasn't good.
Fell on his face.
That one fell on his face. I think they just recently did a patch or an update to that game like the other day, and I'm like, what? Who's playing this? But anyway, but yeah, like it doesn't always work. Like there was another one. A guy who worked on The Witcher 3 just came out with a new game that has to do with vampires, and it looks really, really cool. Like I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, dude, that looks really good. And then I looked the guy up and he's got his pronouns in his bio. And I was like, okay, nope, not buying it. Like, I don't even want to know what's in the game anymore. Like, if you put pronouns in your bio, well, I'm not buying your stuff. Look, I don't want you canceled. I don't want you to lose your job, but I'm not going to give you my money. That's all.
Right. And then if you end up losing your job because you don't make money, well, that's kind of...
but that's...
you played the cards that you do, it's
right. Right. Because like people have gotten banned from like Discord servers and Steam groups and stuff because they oppose that stuff. I think one guy in my Discord server said that he got kicked out of a Steam community because he wrote in his profile something like there were only 2 genders.
Yeah.
So, and they were like, oh my God, no, we can't have this guy in here hurting people. So they kicked him out. I'm not for that, but I am for, like deciding what to do with my property. And that's not cancellation, no matter how bad some people want it to be that.
Yeah. If your company that you work for ever gets to the point that they start referring to the customers as consumers, that's probably the first sign that things are on the wrong path, because that's that whole idea of we can do no wrong. We know these lifestyle groups and we're going to try to like homogenize to reach the widest audience possible, ultimately making something that works for no one and ultimately shows it in the sales that accompany it. It's just, it's not good. You have to make things that, I think it was Tim Kaine was talking about this is another thing that I saw from this week about we don't know what it is that gamers want. And you need to, and then he put the blame back on the gamers, saying that we're not giving them enough of the appropriate feedback. Because he's like, what does means, by it needs better UI. What is better UI? Is there a slider for that? And it's like, dude, it's fairly simple. Stop asking people what they want and just tell a story, like an actual legitimate story that is aimed at a specific group of people. And if they like it, and it's really good, and it's got an amazing game hook and all that kind of stuff, it could be like, here's a great example. Metal Gear Solid. Most people don't even pay attention to the story because they just enjoy the gameplay. I love the game story, specifically, I love how it gets in all the conspiratorial kind of stuff where it's like there's more, there's more honesty in fiction than there is truth in the news. But for a lot of people, they just think it's a silly, bizarre story that doesn't make much sense. But it's very kind of, it's to evoke David Lynch, it's very surreal. And the way that it's kind of showing you these concepts being personified or, kind of made resident within the game world itself. But for a lot of people, they just like, yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand it, but, game's great. And people would say the same thing about Twin Peaks to some degree when they would watch it or any other of David Lynch's films. So, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, it's all right. It's just, it's one of those things where it's like, do what you want as somebody with artistic integrity and you will find an audience, but you actually have to be willing to commit to the concept that you're going to do something that isn't for everyone, trying to reach the, furthest extent of reality, because ultimately that's you can't cast a net that wide. You're not going to catch anything, like, because you're just going to have to, like, stretch out your material. It's going to have too many holes in it, and all the fish are going to get right out through the net. So,
yeah. Oh shit, JoJo's not on the. Hold on a second.
oh no, we need the JoJo cam.
JoJo cam is on. Okay. So Gal Pal Val said in the chat, hey, didn't Jeff Grubb break that story?
Grubby bastard.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. I might as well just mention it now. Like that thing where Jeff Grubb stole Smash JT's story and basically like just put it out on whatever. That just proves that we are the media now, as I've been saying and John's been saying and Nerd Wars and everybody. We are the media now because we have the ability to get the news out before anybody else does, and we have a desire to do it well and do it correctly. So yeah, I mean, Jeff Grubb, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention that later. So
if you are interested in getting a little bit more in depth on it too, I know that my friend Jay Viper that I do shows with on Reality Base with fairly frequently. He put out a story just a few hours after the whole thing, like exposing kind of like the plagiarism and like the whole kind of like act that the grubby bastard is putting on about like being the person who had the exclusive, which is complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah. All right, and another thing I wanted to mention. Somebody said they were asking, I think Dan Silvers in the chat said, I think it's just in the character creation screen. It's about the top surgery scars. I'd bet ironic money you can't change your character later. And then the Goon Room said there's a mirror where you can change everything except your faction. So that actually undoes the whole thing. So if there exists, because this is like Baldur's Gate 3 has that too, right? Where you can, like a lot of games have that. Elden Ring has it, where you can go and you can just change your character, what they look like. A lot of games have that as a feature. So if that's already there, then the top surgery scars serves no purpose other than to virtue signal. That's it. It's just for insecure narcissists that feel like they need to have themselves put in the game. And I think, I mean, we might get into it a little bit later, but I think there is a kind of like, let's say there's a fetishistic element to it, an oversexed element to it, to transgenderism in general. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So, but let's move on to the next story I wanted to talk about. So this is dealing with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm sorry, Kingdom Come bros, but it looks like there is a controversy. So like Warhorse Studios, the controversy surrounding Warhorse Studios and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 centers on unconfirmed rumors, although there's a lot of like evidence to back this up, which includes their response to that, about an unskippable gay relationship scene in the game. These rumors sparked significant backlash, especially from some gamers and commentators on social media who expressed their disappointment and even called for boycotts or cancellation of pre-orders. The situation escalated with claims that the game was banned in Saudi Arabia due to these scenes, although the exact reasons for the ban remain unclear and could also be linked to other content deemed inappropriate. Yeah, because Saudi Arabia is I think it's a majority Muslim country, and the themes in Kingdom Come Deliverance don't appear to be Islamic in any way. But I'm guessing, in my opinion, that it probably has more to do with the gay scene in the game.
I would imagine they're pretty stringent over there.
They're not. They frown on that. They tend to frown on that. In response to the controversy, Warhorse Studios updated their code of conduct for the game's Steam forums, and they banned homophobia and transphobia, which we have to put in quotes because I don't know what that means. Obviously, because if you just say there are two genders, that's usually ruled transphobic. So it's not like the bar for what is considered transphobia is very high. Or even just saying, look, man, I'm not gay, that could be considered homophobic. I mean, it's definitely been pushed. If you've been looking at the way the rhetoric around the G Mafia has been pushed, I call them the G Mafia, it's basically about like not allowing people to have preferences at all at the end of the day. It's eliminating them. And the thing that's funny about this too is that I don't know if the people who are making these rules are aware of this, but homophobia and transphobia as these sort of as allegations are all damn near mutually exclusive concepts, because the trans agenda, the trans identity, the trans let's say philosophy is based in queer theory. Queer theory is based in this concept that there are no, gender is a social construct and it's fluid. And there are people who are even gender abolitionists that believe that gender shouldn't exist as a concept, which basically means homophobia can't exist because there's no such thing as homosexual, because homosexual implies a binary. So it's just like bisexual, right? So that's why there are people that are, gay or lesbian or bi, I guess, that are pushing back against the trans thing, because the trans thing exists to kill the gay, lesbian, and bisexual. It ultimately will, philosophically speaking. I saw this this meme that I shared years ago. It's in my history, so I can't find it now. But it's related to the show because we talk about video games. It's essentially a Pac-Man. And Pac-Man has the trans flag on it, and he's eating the rainbow. So like the dots are the rainbow, right? And he's eating the dots or the ghosts. And so that's what it is, because trans ideology excludes gay, lesbian, and bisexual, because these things are not going to be, they can't coexist. They inevitably they're going to go away.
Yeah,
so, one of them will.
Yeah, I myself, LGBT part is all live your life, do whatever. It's the TQ plus part of that whole thing that's emerging that I find to be quite insidious. I you've heard me refer to it oftentimes. I always say the transhumanist agenda, because ultimately, to me, this is about trying to unmake people and just have automatons that are just completely gender neutral, make a world that's totally homogenized and full of shades of beige and gray, and not actually allowing for people to have individual personalities and characters, and so this it's the ultimate push in collectivism to basically turn us into ants, or some other form of insectial kind of organism that doesn't really have capacity to do anything other than just be a worker drone. And then the control structure that's above all of that still gets to live and breathe as they normally would. When I was in art school, actually, I wrote a story called Haven's Fall that was about all of this stuff. 20 years ago, I just I saw this and I was calling it out, and it's kind of at this point, we made a 300-page plus design document. It technically it is still our property, but the guys that I wrote that game design story with, unfortunately, we've all kind of gone our own separate ways. Some of them won't even talk to me anymore. The guy who works for Rockstar specifically, and it's just, I find that these people are being exploited for the wants and desires of people that are lusting for life extension technology. And if it costs the life of you or your children or anything like that to figure out all that scientific super science that's at the bleeding edge of just humanity, and turning it into something that's not, then so be it. As long as they get to live hundreds of years in the future, they could give two shits less if all the rest of us die on the pathway to getting there, which is really bleak. So good morning. But that's, to me, ultimately what I see this as is these are just mile markers on the road towards this hellscape and a future dystopian kind of reality that I hope that we can keep as a work of fiction, rather than how Idiocracy has become over the years an accidental documentary of kind of the shape of things to come.
Yeah. So I think that the thing about the controversy, it seems to stem, a lot of it is from these kind of slightly ambiguous translations of Saudi Arabia's response. So apparently, there's different ways to read it. The rumor is unskippable gay scenes, and the translation seems the original Arabic can be translated a couple of different ways. Okay, it can be translated as saying, quote, showing anomaly scenes that cannot be tolerated, end quote, or quote, unskippable scenes of deviance in story mode, end quote, or quote, showing deviant scenes that cannot be tolerated. So knowing Saudi Arabia, knowing Islam, that's probably what they're referring to, but we don't know that for sure. Unfortunately, though, Daniel Vavra, the guy behind this game, didn't really assuage people's concerns and just said, turns out that we are once again in the middle of a rather bizarre culture war, this time from the opposite side than usual. So here's a statement, but I hate to spoil the plot of the game for the sake of it. And then he just says here, this game is exactly what I wanted it to be. No one has tried to influence me as an artist in any way. And anyone who knows me knows I wouldn't let them anyway. Every character in the game has a very clear reason to be where they are, which you'll understand when you play the game. Our goal was and still is to show life in medieval Bohemia as it easily could have happened and to tell an interesting story. At the same time, it is a role-playing game, so it's purely up to the player what decisions they make and for the decisions they make, for all the decisions they make. They are responsible for the consequences that correspond to the morals and social norms of the time. I don't want to spoil the plot, the important events, and the roles of some of the characters for anyone, so you'll have to see for yourself by playing the game, and then I strongly believe you'll agree with me. So, okay, a couple of things about this. The one thing that just sort of jumps out at me is when he says, at the very beginning, turns out that we are once again in the middle of a rather bizarre culture war, this time from the opposite side than usual, okay? What are you talking about? Like, one side wants to cancel you and make sure you don't work, and if you died as a result, they wouldn't give a shit. The other side is concerned about the previous side's influence on your game.
Right.
You are not in the middle here. You are on a side. You have to decide what that is, okay? And I'm gonna get into this a little bit later, but the sides are this. This is not left versus right. This is the left versus everybody else. This is the left versus the non-left. Now, the non-left, which is everybody else, they're going to fight amongst each other too, because they're not all in lockstep with each other. They have different agendas, right?
Right.
Some of them are coming at this from their own religious perspective, and they're just pushing back because they believe wokeness is satanic, which it is, but I digress. Some people are just normies that just want to be left alone. Some people are just, they're still like kind of liberal or whatever, but they just don't like the excesses. But they're all on the same side. This is the kind of stuff that annoys me, because it is specifically going to create division where no division needs to exist, okay? People who are going to buy your game, you might lose some of them if you don't clear up this thing, okay? When you say, you'll have to see for yourself by playing the game, that's a mistake too, because people don't have to buy your game. So you're going to have to sell it, okay? You're going to have to tell us, let's say there is a scene in there that has the potential to become a gay scene. And if you choose to go along with that, let's say you choose to go, you have the choice to do it, right? So if you don't do it, you don't experience that. But if you do, maybe he says, oh, there should be consequences because this kind of stuff is frowned on. Well, I don't think people would have a problem with that, because they would say, okay, this makes sense. It doesn't, it's not breaking the immersion.
No, I mean, it's not hard to believe that maybe at some point in history of Bohemia, that there was a gay person that had a relationship.
Exactly, that existed. But the thing is that it's not that's the issue that people are worried about. It's the desire to normalize modern concepts and break immersion for people.
Right.
That is the problem. Like in every other game and film and television show, if they put some, rainbow stuff in there, you just have to sit there and take it. I mean, like if you bought it, right? So his approach is wrong on a couple levels. Number one, he assumes that he's floating above everybody else. The enlightened centrist thing, we're bored. We're done with that. We're bored. Pick a side, okay?
You know how
There's
I feel about fence sitters.
Yeah,
I'll save everybody the half-hour diatribe.
Yeah. There's a side that's trying to burn everything down, and they're using their narcissism to do it. And then there's the side that doesn't want everything burned down. That's it. Like, that's all it is. Some of those people you might disagree with, but you do agree on the thing that matters, which is the not burning everything down. Okay, so this guy Daniel, he has to realize that he's not floating above everybody. What are your principles? Where do you sit? This is like a thing that is just going to continue to happen, and the reason why, by the way, is because people are afraid. They're afraid that their position, if they take a position, that it will be unpopular. Stick to your guns, okay? This is what you have to do. So that was one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is, don't tell people that they should play the game and then decide if they like it after. That's not going to work. We're done with that too. Gamers and consumers of all stripes are voting with their wallets. You should see that. We just covered what's going on with BioWare, but it's also happening to Ubisoft. It's happening to EA. It's happening to, all these big publishers, Activision. It could
like
be
that
you.
bullshit.
They being an indie developer does not protect you.
Right. It's like, it's like that bullshit they pull in Washington when they're like, well, you have to sign the bill to know what's in it. It's like, no. This is completely, you're looking at the telescope backwards, sir. That's not the way this stuff works. Like, disclosure, especially when you're put into a position like this. I think you could actually speak to the terms, as you're saying, without getting into the nuts and bolts of how everything functions in the game. You don't have to explicitly say, well, at this point in the game, this happens, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to necessarily do that. It could just be something as simple as you said, well, it's a game based on role playing and on choices and decisions. And we put in there a variety of decisions that you may or may not encounter. That at least kind of gives people a little bit of leeway to, kind of go in with more of a open heart and open mind, rather than someone saying, well, just buy the game. And then, after I have your money, then you can have your opinions on it.
There are certainly like YouTubers, like the content creators that will you were just talking about Hypnotic playing through the Veil Guard or whatever. So people are going to buy it. But the thing is, the purpose of it is that if that one person buys it and then they play it and review it, like I think, somebody, who was it? Andy Pants Gaming? No, not Andy Pants Gaming. It was the other guy, Synthetic Man. He played through Dustborn. And it was just so that he could share it with everybody else, show them how bad. Savvy did that too, right? Yeah. And you could say, you ended up giving them money, but the thing is, I think that it also saved on the other end of that, because one person bought it and millions did not as a result, because they were like, oh no, I'm not buying that. Right. So yeah, go ahead. I
was going to say, it's kind of like yesterday, we did a topic of the day on Taylor Lorenz and Asylum Mercanti having a conversation that took place a week after she filed the lawsuit.
Taylor Lorenz is such a piece of shit.
Right. I had to I had to listen to that. It was 37 minutes of just some hen-pecking mean girls trying to justify and rationalize all their various forms of insanity. And I listened to it 3 times, took notes. I have 4 pages of notes on it still that I got from it, just so that other people didn't have to spend their time just taking all that in. And that's basically which phrasing. That's kind of the thing that we're talking about here is we live in a time where you're not going to get away with anything. The internet is forever. Nothing ever gets erased. And there are people that are willing to wait a few weeks, especially as Dan points out in the chat that people are really broke right now, which makes voting with your wallet
makes it a lot easier.
And so that's the thing, is if you want people to buy your game, they have to know that it's worth their time, worth their purchase, than to just haphazardly just throw money at everything that comes down the line. If you want that to be the case, then make a better economy. Charge less for your games if you want people to be more willing to kind of take whatever it is that you're going to try to put on. But that's not the world that we're living in right now. So, you really have to make your decisions from the onset, and whatever your design is, it's either going to succeed or it's going to fail based on those intentions. So make sure that if you're trying to, go in with the best intentions to make a profit, maybe actually cater to the audience that actually already exists. I know that people want to sit here and say that gaming is bigger than ever, because 20 years ago nearly now, the Wii U became, or not the Wii U, but the Wii introduced a whole bunch of casual gamers along with cell phones into the quote unquote game industry. But if that's who you're playing for, trying to get those dollars, then don't expect people that actually built this thing up, to make it such an industry that it is preyed upon by these large conglomerates and, venture capitalists, all this kind of stuff. You have the problem with the game industry is that there are not enough small design houses. And that's why you and I constantly are talking about the benefits of supporting AA companies that, do their own thing, put out stuff through Steam and all this kind of stuff. And they aren't concerned about, this top down kind of perspective on things. We need a proliferation of independent artists that have their own intentions and can go at it in a way that is meaningful. Games don't have to be these ultimate experiences that have every little thing in there and they all end up just being the exact same game, just with a different coat of paint or a skin job applied to it, where I played this game 1,000 times over and it's boring. It doesn't actually have its own voice, and so it even though it's making all this cacophonous noise, it's not speaking to anyone. So
yeah, but the thing is, Daniel Vavra, he is an indie developer, the guy who made Kingdom Come Deliverance, and we all got behind him, and we, I didn't buy it because it's not my cup of tea, but he got, we put him on the map. So, I think that I do interviews with indie devs and usually upload them on my channel, but I do it for the Jamcast guys. And there's lots of people coming up. And the thing is, I think the bar for entry has, it's getting a lot lower. It's getting a lot easier to get involved, to get started in this. But at the same time, most people are only going to look at stuff that's marketed at them. And the marketing budgets for games are massive. This is why the failures are twice as bad as you think, because it's not just about how much they put into the development of the game and the distribution of the game and the publishing of the game, but also the marketing of the game.
Right.
But anyway, so Daniel Vavra should be aware that what he has, the success he has, is very fragile, and that there's a lot of very stiff competition. And so I think that we won't know for sure if the game is woke. But his response does not inspire confidence. And what he probably should have said is I'm not going to speak anything on this. Saudi Arabia has their reasons. I ask that you wait until we have more to show, and then you can decide. But it's possible that, that it doesn't have that. But his response, it wasn't good. So we'll see. I mean, the game doesn't come out for another year. We will see. And we'll respond. We'll get back to you guys when we know more. But anyway, let's move on to the next story. So, I should show the image. So CI Games are the developers of Lords of the Fallen. And the CEO, Mark Tyminski, announced that the developer is going to be removing Type A and Type B body choices from Lords of the Fallen and replace them with male and female, because they conducted a poll on Twitter and asked people, in a medieval fantasy setting, let me just put it on the screen here. In a medieval fantasy action RPG experience, what do you prefer to choose between? We will follow the final result. Body type A or B, male or female, none of the above. So I don't know what those people at the bottom are saying. They might be saying they don't care. I don't want to get involved, but here's my vote for how not involved I want to be.
Maybe they want bananas and donuts.
Yeah, right. Hot dogs or roast beef sandwiches.
That's right.
So overwhelmingly people wanted the male and female, which is a little bit, gives me a little bit of hope for humanity. After that poll closed, Tominski took to X and said, with over 49,000 votes, 88% of you said you prefer male or female. As a player-first studio, we will update Lords of the Fallen 2023 and future titles in the series accordingly. Stay tuned. And I mean, that's nice. I think Lords of the Fallen, though, needs to be fixed as a game because it's not a great game. So there is that. Like, these guys have been trying to, like, you know, they made a Lords of the Fallen game a while back, was not a hit. Then I think they made a sequel to it, but I could be wrong. And then there was this like science fiction version of it that I can't remember the name of. I bet one of you guys in the chat knows. And then they remade Lords of the Fallen and tried to get it right. And I guess it's like their strongest outing, but it still wasn't. I mean, this is a really cool looking image, but that, you know, makes you think, holy crap, that looks cool. But from what I understand, it's not that great. But so what I'm warning about, or what I'm thinking about is this, it's a good thing that he's doing that. But this does feel like a bit of a pander. Like, okay, you guys didn't buy my game, but what if I'm anti-woke? You know, what if I take out the AB type and replace it with male or female? Look, I forgive you if you changed it. I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you see, you know, like the writing on the wall that like nobody wants this.
Right.
But also,
I do like the thing about
guys.
That poll.
Like,
right?
What were you gonna say?
Well, the thing that I like about that poll, if you can pop it back up for a second, just to the margin of you know, the difference. You know, 90%,
for sure.
90% of the respondents. This was 49,000 people that had voted on it. 49.527. So we out of nearly 50,000 people, only about 5,000 are into this whole idea of using type A, type B. And then within that 10%, there's even like a fluctuation on, you know, people that are like, yeah, let's do this. And then there's like this small little margin, just kind of, yeah, whatever. And, you know, this you know, poll right here should be studied by every game designer, design house going forward as to like, what is it that we can actually do to ensure, you know, that we're actually not being out of touch with the audience, you know, because this is a pretty good amount of respondents, you know, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, as you're saying, like the choice between a body type A, B is the least of the problems that Lords of the Fallen as a title has specifically, but I do at least appreciate somebody, you know, pulling back on that, as opposed to say Stardew Valley, who 10 plus years after the game was released, went and changed
17 or something like that. So no, I don't think so. I think that.
All right. I think we're back now. There we go.
What happened? Oh, did you drop out?
Something happened. Maybe it was my internet on my end. But everything like went black screened, and then like my
CPU is doing fine, so it's not. We're good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the remake of Lords of the Fallen isn't that bad. Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard things about it that it's okay, but still not like as strong, you know, an outing as what it's trying to be like. You know, it didn't do like a Black Myth Wukong or anything. But I mean, but you know, it's okay though. Like I said, step in the right direction. It shows that people with common sense are starting to be heard, and and this has like it kind of has a snowball effect. Like so you have a lot of people, and this was going on during COVID. You have a lot of people who are afraid to just speak out against the, you know, whatever the orthodoxy is, right? Because they tend to be agreeable. They don't want to be on the wrong side of something. They're gaslit into thinking that they could be wrong. Because it's like, well, if so many people believe this, then maybe it's true. And so they don't say anything. But once they feel the confidence to be able to say something because enough other people have essentially taken those first steps and taken that risk in the outset, then there will be like, you know, a cascade effect of other people speaking out. And I think that, you know, the gender thing, I think that for most people, we're just over it. But, you know, I mean, some people have been saying from the very beginning that this is wrong. And now more and more people have find it acceptable to say that. And I think that this this poll shows it. I think if you did this poll in Jack Dorsey's Twitter, it would it wouldn't look like this. So
no, because even if it were like this, it just wouldn't have been allowed. Like you would have like me, your internet connection just wouldn't have gone through for some reason.
Yeah.
Disavow.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad that he did it. I hope it's a, like I said, a sign of things to come. And we'll just have to see what happens from there. Yeah. So let me just gonna talk about something else. So we got this thing going on. Goonergate has become like another subject that we kind of have to look at here. Yeah. So
pointless.
I'm only using Razor Fist as an example because he's probably like got the most moderate take in this, but still. So basically what's happened is Razor Fist argued that gamers can and should demand video games that are not spiritually caustic or degenerate. He criticizes modern game design for what he perceives as an overemphasis on political correctness and identity politics over gameplay and narrative integrity, which is what we also do as well. It's like what's been killing gaming for a long time. But the other side of this coin is, or has been, that and this was started, I want to say started by, but it was going on for a while. We talked about this when we talked about
bubbling under the surface.
Yes, it was bubbling under the surface. And I guess Melanie Mac, who you guys probably know, has been, one of these like louder voices on the pro Gamergate side, as I like to refer to it, because it's the way that I know. She has been, going after like the activists in game development that are, masculinizing all the women and all that. But then we got the other side of that where she thinks that there's too much perverse, gooning going on in gaming as well, and that she is pushing back against that. And when we talked about it, we were basically like, from what I remember, what we landed on was, okay, so you have a preference, and there's a lot of, you're not alone, like all the, this is why I say there's no left and right. There's just left and non-left, because on the non-left side, there are people who want, they're basically just like free expression absolutists. They're just like, make whatever you want. I don't care. I'll just decide what I want to give money to and what I don't. There are people who believe that this is a inherently Christian conservative movement, and so they have to be like the flag bearers of that. And they think it's the only way to win. That's like the guys at Fandom Pulse, John Delarose, Jonathan Trent, Melanie Mac, and others like that. And I'm not saying that that's all Christians, because Razor Fist is Christian too, but he's way more moderate on this than that. And then you got people who are legitimately just, gooners that just want to goon to everything. But I don't think they're wrong. Like, it's their decision. But where I think the problem is that people think that you can undo 100 years of subversive propaganda in one, in like a couple of years of protests against woke video games. Right. Because like I think that the problem with Melanie Mac's arguments and Delarose's arguments is that they think that if they don't push back against everything, like with all of the same force that they were getting, I guess, but in the opposite direction, that they're not going to win. And that is not good, because it's going to divide the non-left, and that's what it's already starting to do, right? There's fracturing going on because there are people, and all of this kind of stems from this whole like, somebody's wrong on the internet, I have to correct them, and they all need to take a chill pill, because you are losing focus on the real enemy. The real enemy are the commies, okay? And their woke global homo, like gay race communist agenda. That's the real enemy. You have to stay laser focused on them. Because as soon as you start saying, well, you're a pervert, or this is inappropriate, and you start like telling people like, what should be allowed and what should not be allowed, that's a recipe for disaster. That's how we lose. This is what happened in Gamergate 1 in 2014, is you got this divide between the ethics cucks which are the people who are like, well, we just get the journalists to stop being, to be more ethical and stop taking payola, then we'll win. And then you have the people who are like, no, this is a deeper problem. This is a problem of ideological warfare on our culture, and it's been going on for a very long time. And I've been beating that drum since before that, okay? I saw it starting to happen in comics, and I was like, and comics is basically a dead medium now. So I was like, this is a problem we have to address, nip it in the bud, right? So, so what I will say is, let me look at your comments, because I got more to say about this. So Lazul, thank you, says down with woke DEI, queer, anti-gooner designs, and down with tele-evangelist Puritan Christians. Neither is good. Freedom in the gaming medium is the way to go. Lazul says queer ideology is the enemy. Basically, queer ideology is woke. Yeah, intersectional feminism, I think, is feminism at the end of the day. Like that's what I think. And all the other stuff comes out of feminism. All of it. All queer theory, critical race theory, all that other shit comes out of feminism. Because just really briefly, when communism did not work, or Marxism did not work in the West, because, like the market was actually good for people, and we were thriving, and we were successful, and we were able to own land, and we were building, and everything was growing, you couldn't make workers hate their bosses, because everybody was doing well and we were all profiting. So they had to change their plan. They said, okay, let's make the women hate the men. And it was super effective, and it's still effective, So it does all come out of feminism. And once you planted that seed, you can use that to create all kinds of antagonism between groups of people. So that's where it comes from. But I'll say, to respond to your comment about that. So I think that I have to give the devil his due. Okay. The evangelists guys they're overreaching, and they're going to do more harm than good. And that's what I think. Okay.
Oh yeah. I think that inherently they mean well, but ultimately they are just mean girls.
Well, I think yes. But here's the thing. I do think that, is there a line? I'm going to ask you guys. Okay. Is there a line between attractive people in games, attractive characters, and pornography? And if there is, where is the line? I want to know what you guys think. Here's what I think. I think that it doesn't matter what you do. Like, Rule 34 exists for a reason. So no matter what you do, somebody who wants to, they're going to make it sexually attractive. So there's no point in trying to censor that or control that. You just can't. And this is the thing. A lot of these guys, these hardcore Catholics or whatever, their problem is that ultimately they're trying to control desire, and they can't. You have to choose to move away from it. But I think that why they're concerned is legitimate, because I've looked into the data on porn consumption, and it's not just men, by the way. You've heard about the woman who recorded herself banging 100 dudes in a day, right? And then her friend did another. They were friends. She did 1,000 dudes in a day, and I don't know if it was on video or whatever, but it affects women too. So I'm not putting this on men. Okay, this is not a gendered thing. But,
no, and honestly, as a guy who worked in a porn shop, I can honestly say, that 80% of the stuff that is in there is focused towards women. So, it's kind of like this weird little aspect to these kinds of things about what is deviance, and and honestly, throughout history, the first dildo probably had splinters, or was a rock or something like that. But that's the thing, is this is just part of human nature in and of itself. And I think that I've talked about this a little bit here and there this week, because Melanie Mac went on her 30-minute long just kind of meandering stream of consciousness, and she really needs somebody in her life that she trusts, that can actually say to her, Melanie, I in all good faith, shut the fuck up, because you're clinging so hard to your religion that you're losing your faith. Because
Well, I
the
think
pathway to good faith is kind of forgiveness and kind of
Yeah.
actually like sitting with people in sin. That's what a saint is. Saint sat with sin always. Like that is the nature of the word. Like to sit here and say that you have to be this pure, this kind of like moralistic or anything like that to be given the keys to the kingdom. All you have to do is look at the story of the crucifixion, and the first two people that were entered into heaven was a murderer and a thief. So the line's actually pretty individual for each of us. We all have our own paths to tread in these matters. And so whether you want to, take something in or leave it to the side, that is a matter of personal taste, choice, and, discernment. And you can have your opinions on it. But when Melanie Mack this week kind of went off the way that she did, and it was the weirdest thing too, because she kept picking up her Bible. Like she did it like at least 3 times in the video. And it was like she was almost kind of saying, don't come at me. This is the Bible. And it's like, well, yeah, that may be the case, but it seems like you're kind of like, saying, don't blame me, blame this other thing, which in and of itself seems like, something that's kind of offensive towards your supposed faith in the long term, because like the center core character in that story and what that's all about is saying treat others well and all this kind of stuff. And Melanie's kind of like this she's been getting uniquely radicalized by degrees over the course of the last few years. And I now like, my crazy crackpot theory, because she used to be an advocate for gay rights and everything like that. It's almost like she's got like notice me senpai energy, where it's like, oh, look at all the good deeds I did for you, Jesus. Don't hold my past against me. Because now I'm starting to wonder, is just like, like the lady doth protest too much. What is it that she doesn't want to necessarily, and I could be completely off on this, and this is just like one of those thoughts that I have, but it almost seems like she's trying to make up for something, and like doesn't want to be caught up in the storm of her own desires and this and that may have happened at one point in time or not. But it does kind of ring to me like a lot of these senators who will I'm a family man and all this kind of stuff, and then you find out that they're looking for glory holes in the bathroom. It's just it's weird shit. And so it's like the more extreme view you take on something, the more it starts to seem as though it's projection and deflection to keep you out of anybody's targets.
Well, what I think it is? I think it's something a little bit simpler than this. I don't think that she's a hypocrite, but I think that there is a danger. Okay, so like I got to talk a little bit about my experience online. So I think that what may be happening is someone has suddenly found themselves with a lot more influence than they had before, and it kind of goes to their head. And I think that it's a really easy trap to fall into. And I think that what's going on is it's not so much that, because look, like we know that, yeah, Melanie Mack was just kind of like a norm, and I don't want to make this about her per se, because I want to talk about something more of like a principle, but I think that her shifting in positions could simply be an evolution. But there was a chunk of time there in the last few years where she would just go online and just say faggot, and everyone just get views. Yeah, of course she does. And look, I don't care. I think it's funny, but it kind of like tells you what you need to know. Like there are, especially girls, I'm sorry to say, if you're a girl and you're just like saying gamer words online and you're reasonably cute, you are just going to make a massive following. It's just the truth. If I do it, it's not going to work the same way.
Right.
It's just not. So you go from no influence to all kinds of influence, and maybe you have a few things that you genuinely care about. I remember when she spoke loudly about, Tomb Raider because it's like her favorite thing. That's fine, but this does run the risk of going to your head. And another thing that happens a lot too is that there's a little bit of like, when you get a taste of that, you start chasing clout from on the coattails of other people, maybe undeservedly. And I'll bring up a thing that this might be a throwback for any of you guys who are paying attention. Of course, I was around for this, but like in let's say after Gamergate was kind of like nobody started talking about it anymore. And it was like 2017, 2018. You had this thing that they called the skeptic community, right? There was basically people who were critical of the social justice, gay race communists. And I think the reason why there was a skeptic community was because they didn't see that what was going on during Gamergate was the same shit. So they were like, oh no, that was about ethics and journalism. This is different. This is criticizing the woke feminists, right? And I was like, but that was what was this. We're talking to the same fucking people about the same shit. And so you had people that were always doing it, like Carl, who I've spoken to many times. I like him. I think he's a good guy. And Carl Benjamin, that's Sargon of Akkad, and other people who had like big platforms from Gamergate. So like Chris Reagan and I mentioned Carl already, and some other ones, right? There were, I don't know, I don't remember their names now. Dave Cullen was kind of vocal. He's another friend of mine. But then the skeptic communities happened, and you had a bunch of people who you'd never seen before that were just like, oh yeah, we're part of this now. And they like leached on Bunty King, who was another one, Jeff Holiday, I don't know, Base Mama, like whatever. There were a bunch of other people that I met at this. There was a party, I met them, but I wasn't there for that. And Tim Pool, he was a part of this too. He was involved with Gamergate like way back in the day. And so some people, they get by on their own merit. They work hard, like Tim Pool works hard, Carl works hard, and they just sort of grow. But then other people, they just kind of like attach themselves and they use that to like promote themselves. I remember after the VidCon event, when we went to VidCon, and this was supposedly when the skeptics were happening, we actually got yelled at by Anita Sarkeesian. I was sitting in the front row right next to Dave Cullen and Carl. Well, it was a couple people over, but you know what I'm saying? And I saw that happen. And then like after that, I guess some of them stayed in California. Carl went on Joe Rogan's podcast like after that, and they talked, and Chris Reagan, Bunty King, and some other guys, Jeff Holiday, I don't know, they went on Dave Rubin. And the reason was because, this is my belief, is that there was this phenomenon and they wanted in on it. They were trying to get in on the ground floor. They were trying to build up their clout. But the problem is that it was fleeting because there was no substance and there was no commitment to they didn't commit to what they were doing because they didn't really know why it mattered. And this is why I'm still doing this despite no clout whatsoever, because I don't care about that. I care about the truth. But I think that this is the same thing. Whenever something like this, you get like these, these peaks and valleys of interest in something. And now the Gamergate 2 has happened. You get like different peak personalities, and Melanie Mac is one of them. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, she's been on side scrollers, and like, side scrollers, like what's his name? Stuttering Craig is one of these people. But again, I've been doing this since 2013. And when Gamergate 2 was just starting to show itself, and Cabrutus Rambo got his, thing taken down, and I had him on my show, and I talked to him about it because I was like watching what was going on. I remember Craig having no interest in it. He was like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. What is Gamergate? Sounds lame. And then now he's all about it. Like he's got multiple shows a week because now it's like, oh, this is actually giving my channel a tremendous amount of traffic. So why wouldn't I do that? So I think that what's going on with people like Melanie Mac is the same thing. They get swept up in this, a wave of popularity. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that she's female. Shoe on head, same thing. She made one video about Gamergate. She became like the face of it completely. And I was like, yeah, but do you know what's actually going on here? Or are you just like a, cute girl that's online? And that's what it is, like in that case, at least, right? So like, that's the thing with this. Now, Razor Fist is kind of where I sit on this. I think that, okay, first of all, because I feel like I'm changing subjects, those are my thoughts on what's going on with Melanie Mac. I think that, of all the sins, and I don't want to get too into the biblical part of this, but of all the sins that we can fall into, pride is the most difficult one to escape. It is the easiest one to fall into, and it's the hardest one to escape. And I think that we are all vulnerable to it. And so if everyone's telling Melanie Mac that they love her and they want to hear her opinion on everything and they want to get her feedback on this or that, and she's having influence and she's saying stuff they like, then when she finally says, well, I don't like this, she's going to, you know, piss people off because there's a vision of her that they expected that isn't real. And I mean, like, if that's what you really believe, then Melanie Mac should stick to her guns, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, and just accept that what comes with it. But, and I say this to, you know, the guys at Fandom Pulse and any other people. I think there was what's the guy who originally shared that image of the first Descendant and said, "Is this what we?"
That was Pirate Nation, if I remember correctly.
Pirate Nation? No, I thought it was Dread Roberts.
Well, Dred's the one who commented on it, and that kind of like, you know, lit the fuse.
Yeah.
But
so
I personally think Dred, you know, he's got some personal trauma, I would imagine, that he's working through, and I think that he was just kind of like, that was like, I think he needed a release valve, and that was the vent of his frustrations with like some other issues that are far too personal to really necessarily go into. But it kicked this whole thing off in a weird kind of way.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that what I think that these guys have to understand is that they're trying to they can't be aggressive in trying to deprogram if that's what you have to do. So I think that the best way to move people towards the highest good is to be the best example of that. So as someone who grew up with superheroes, one of my favorites has always been Superman. And the reason why is not because of all the things he can do. It's because he is like an unwavering moral compass, and he makes everybody else want to be like him. They want to be better people. And Captain America is the same. Those are like two of my favorite superheroes of all time. And that's the reason. It's because they're inspiring people to be better people, and to like, and they give them a sense of what is right and wrong. That's the best way to move people. So slight tangent.
Slight tangent. I just want to mention that in that video that I was talking about with Alyssa Mercanti and Taylor Lorenz, towards the end of it, she compared herself to Captain America, and we're all the Nazis that she's fighting. We're the Nazis that she's fighting in the elevator.
Oh god,
basically.
Yeah,
we're the Hydra. We're the Hydra agents. You know,
yeah, maybe the Sam Wilson version. But,
right.
Yeah, no.
Sorry for derailing your train of thought.
No, it's okay. See, and you see, that's how you know the difference between us, right? So, Alyssa Mercante made this claim.
Yeah. It was in the.
Alyssa Mercante. Yeah, Alyssa Mercante says, "I feel like I am Captain America." Yeah. I said, "I want to be like Captain America." These are the differences. Right. This is the difference, guys. Do you see that? It's like a person who says, "I wish I was like that," is saying, "I am not like that." They have the humility to say, "Look, I'm far from perfect." It's like we are called to be like Christ, even though we know we can't actually be like Christ.
Right.
But that's the idea it's the aspirational thing. That's why that's what makes it different. That's what makes it, you know, it's humble, but also an understanding of where you should be aiming yourself, right? So, okay. Closer to the Red Skull, yeah. No, I like the Red Skull. I want them to put the Red Skull in Marvel Rivals so I can main him. But because I remember they were putting out articles saying, "Please don't put him in there. You're trivializing Nazism." Do you realize that people who created the Red Skulls were Jews? Anyway, So anyway, I do want to say, though, there's another side to this that I think should be thought about. Now, you can do the research yourself because I don't want to go into it too long. But we are getting, like, this could go for a little while longer because it's only 12:15 and we haven't had any technical problems at all, despite John dropping out for like a second. But it was an internet burp, you know? Yeah, I think it was. So I think that what is really fascinating is that, well, first of all, porn addiction is real. It exists, okay? I'm not saying anyone here is addicted to porn, but it's a real thing that exists, okay? So let's just understand that that's true. And I think that the evidence for that are the troon activists in gaming. Corrine Busche. I guarantee you she's a porn addict or he is a porn addict. Because I believe, and I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest this, that if you watch enough porn, and there's studies that have been done on the psychology of this as well, the more porn you consume, the more, because of the way that it like affects your brain, you need to constantly see over time more and more extreme forms of porn. And usually the most extreme porn versions ends up becoming like gay tranny porn. And then
or
the
German
people who
stuff with
Anyway, I'm losing the point.
It's like the extreme stuff like bestiality and like tranny porn, right? And even if it's like, even if you're like, let's say you are into futanari. Futanari is basically a gateway used to push you into tranny porn. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever you want. I'm not making, this is not a moral judgment. I'm not making an ought argument. I'm saying an is. Like this is like a thing that happens. And if you're not somewhat disciplined and you just keep falling into it, you can move towards this. And I think the people we're fighting against, a lot of them are that. I think Alyssa Mercante is a porn addict. I think that Anita is a porn addict. I think that a lot of these training developers are porn addicts. And they're really into the dark stuff. Like, I don't even want to imagine what it is. And I think it's because there is a psychological, it's the algorithm sets you up to keep looking at more and more extreme stuff. And so like the people who are, again, I'm not saying anything should be censored, but I think that you should exercise discretion. You should not discretion. I'm sorry. You should be discerning about what it is that is being done to you, because look at the people who own porn websites. Not even going into like, the potential child trafficking and sex trafficking that goes on to create the content for that. That's like a legal issue, but more about how it affects the viewer. And this is done in a lot of different ways. And when you look at the people who run these sites and their goal is to keep you locked in, I'm not calling to ban anything. But the thing is that there are people that are operating at different levels. So the people who are pushing this stuff, they're probably the furthest down the rabbit hole. And the consumers of this stuff are in other like varying levels. And it's really hard to escape. Like if you just go to like, I go to Facebook and I'll just see shit like on my Facebook page. And I'm like, what is this? Like, it's like, because, people from all over the world are on there. A lot of people from the Middle East and India are like sharing stuff that they probably shouldn't be sharing. So it's not easy to escape. But my point is that it does have an effect, and it is something to take into consideration. I'm not claiming moral high ground. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not calling for censorship. I'm just saying you should be a little bit careful. Who owns Pornhub? Somebody's asking.
Well, I mean, we could get into that, but that's like a whole other kind of like rabbit hole. But again, if I can,
I don't think you want to know who owns Pornhub.
Oh, we got right. But if I can delve back into my actual work-related experience, because I have worked in the adult industries of sorts. When I was down in art school, I worked for this mother and daughter owned, very upscale kind of place. And down in the South, like, you can't directly just have a de facto porn shop, right? It has to like, half the store has to be like, fake vomit and like, dad joke books and silly stuff like that. But then when, I worked in Seattle, much to your point, we had a wide variety of everything. Right. Sometimes people would pop in, like, I might get something like, for like a couple's night or whatever. But the mainstay of our business was the booths in the back. Like, that's where the money was made. And so like at that point in time, and so it's the progression of, like, even the video at a certain point in time is not, enough. You actually go and find yourself in one of the private theaters that I would, I've never actually went into any of the theater stalls during the time that I worked there, because I don't have the heart or like, the stomach for it probably, to really like, have any kind of thoughts about what goes on there confirmed. But it is to your point, like, the progression that would happen, like there were certain people, like I said, would come in from time to time, they might get a thing and be on their way, and you never really see them again. But the continual long-term customers that were like, they're like, days out of the week, they were there for specific things, and those things were generally something that they couldn't just get easily anywhere else, as because like that was what that's what the theater ostensibly is ultimately made for, is that ultimate kind of threshold that gets crossed.
Yeah, JJJ Jr. says, "Who owns Pornhub?" I'm looking it up. Lol. I'll save you the trouble. Just it's a rabbi. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. It's a rabbi, and rabbis own a lot of different like porn sites and stuff. It's not just Pornhub. But and I think this is the thing. Like people are saying, autogynephilia. That's right. So it's a fetish that emerges from porn addiction. If you are into like cake, that's fine. I'm into cake. I love it. I like hot chicks. Okay. Mm-hmm. When I say addiction, I don't mean just consumption. Now, I believe that it is a sin, but so what? Why do you care what I think? And I believe that if I see it myself, right? So, but I think that the reason why I'm bringing this up is so that when people see these, troons working and being activists and loud and whatnot, remember, like, what's the name of the swimmer that was like competing in women's swimming? Oh, and it was like a tranny. The tranny that was in.
I can't think of something Thomas or Thomas something. But...
Leah Thomas. Yeah, Leah Thomas. Yeah. So Leah Thomas was like, all over the news and all that. And then if you go to that person, like somebody did a deep dive and they're like an absolute like pervert. Okay. So what I'm saying is that not all perverts are troons, but probably all troons are perverts. Like there's like a pathway. And this is important too, because you should look into, oh man, I don't have the link in front of me. There's a great channel that did a series of videos about sex education and how it's changed, and where all of this comes from are like these like psychoanalysts, like Sigmund Freud types that were in academia, like John Money and Alfred Kinsey, and they were essentially like saying, oh yeah, like this, gender is socially constructed, and I can prove it. And they got kids to commit suicide and whatnot, but they still believe it's true. And that's what I'm saying. Like they push porn on people, and women get involved with it too. But I think it might have more of a negative effect on men, to essentially it makes them trans and gay over time, because you're like a voyeur, right? And so like I think it just has this effect on the dopamine doesn't get the same levels of satisfaction, so you need to watch more. I mean, like watch a porn from the 70s and you'll be like, man, that's boring. Like right. Like even the regular vanilla stuff is like really different. So what I'm saying is essentially like, what is the saying goes, like when you fight with monsters, be careful that you don't become a monster yourself. I mean, like in the sense of, being like involved, like understanding that the people we're fighting against they themselves have a problem with this, and they're probably want to push this on everybody else because they want to normalize it, because they know that for them, there's something wrong with them. And this is not biological. This is like a social kind of warfare on their minds, and they're losing. And that's why I think they're like, queer activists basically. But games currently already have ratings on them, so I don't see a reason to change that. You can't affect like what people are into, so that I don't have any desire to like have change that at all. And I think that, again, it goes back to the thing I said in the beginning, like when it comes to attractive characters in video games, if you have I think Melanie Mack is way off on whatever her standard is. Like if it's Marvel Rivals, because that's where this emerged from, was Marvel Rivals came out and there was like an Invisible Woman skin that was racy, and it was based on a thing from the comics. Like it was It wasn't
and it was
like they
monetized.
didn't make it
was
up.
monetized, so you have to go through a variety of hoops to even get to it. And so, like when things are like that, it really is kind of like let people live their own lives, you know.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Melanie, she certainly has a blind spot because she, you know, exalts Laura Croft as kind of being like this great, you know, feminine, you know, hero archetype, which she is. But to go and say that back in the 1990s, early 2000s, that there weren't, you know, advertisements with Laura specifically in various states of undress and kind of like, you know, being glistening and wet and all this kind of stuff. You know, that's just, you know, that's being willfully ignorant on her part, because she'll sit here and kind of like, you know, like have like this whole kind of like pantheon of things that she wants to cast aspersions on. But amongst those characters is this person, this character that she is highly involved with and, you know, seeks to just be involved with continually, even though it still falls under that same category.
Yeah, but it's because her line is pretty arbitrary. It's just based on her feelings, and that's why I'm saying like it should be dismissed. And she could be a fake gamer girl who never played the games. I think she live streams.
No. She's definitely a gamer girl. She worked
I
for
think she's
GameStop
probably
TV
legit.
for like she. Yeah, I mean, like her backstory is extensive. She's been doing stuff on YouTube for well over a decade, nearly like like 15, 18 years now. So
yeah, I don't think that really matters anyway.
No,
like,
no.
Like I said, like it doesn't matter what her credit. I think that the problem is that she's not going to be able to win whatever it is she's after this way. This is not effective. And it isn't right, because you are in fact acting like the people that you're fighting against. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because specifically this is me saying, you see, there is no left and right. There is the left and there is everybody else. There is the left and the non-left, and the non-left are going to fight against them amongst themselves because they're not one thing. They are several different groups with their own interests and goals. The left has one goal, and they don't care how they get there. And a lot of them are broken people who, you know, as Jesse Lee Peterson would say, they hate God, they hate the family. And I think that he's right. At the end of the day, they're angry at their fathers for not being there and not their mothers for excluding them. They struggle with their own like identity. They're you know, broken. They're porn addicted, drug addicted, whatever. They're addicted to something. Sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's pornography. Sometimes it's booze. Sometimes it's drugs. Sometimes it's multiple things. There's like a disproportionate number of trans people who are also on drugs. So like they're not well. And so like everyone else who's normal is going to be cast in a certain light as being part of one group, but they're not. They are just different groups. And sometimes those groups agree on stuff and sometimes they don't. And what I need to stress is that people have to remain focused on what is important. And primarily that's the truth, whatever that is. But also you have to be kind of realistic. And I think that these guys that are kind of on a crusade to like, you know, make gaming like pure, that's not the way to go. Like you can't do that. It's just not going to be effective and nobody wants it. The best thing to do is to leave people alone. And if you want to make recommendations, right?
Right.
But
I can give people advice, but ultimately it's their decision because it's their life to live,
I think
not
that
mine.
it's so important that we have the freedom to choose.
Yeah,
that
would be
like
one of those things
whatever-
from the Bible that a lot of people
Yeah.
seem to forget, is that the ultimate gift that we have is free agency to choose to do as we will with our time here, you know, and you know, like to bring David Lynch back in because I like to do that. You know, the concept of the lodge in Twin Peaks, or even the wider works of David Lynch, when you go through that threshold, you either enter with an open heart and open mind, and like you see what's considered to be the White Lodge. But if you go in and like you dwell in shadow, then your head's on fire, right? And it's symbolic, but like the White Lodge and the Black Lodge are ostensibly the same, you know, space. It's just the lodge. It's just how you know, ultimately enter into that space that kind of frames it as whether it's purgatory or a paradise. And like and I'm just saying that just so it kind of like not be in this completely ultra religious kind of mindset, that these concepts are universal. You don't even have to, like I believe that if you operate in the tenets of good faith, the silly hats of religion reside on a good head of faith in the best case scenario. And if you are somebody who is in good faith, whatever that may be, you can ultimately see past someone's silly hat. And if you're only focused on the silly hat society that you're a part of, and think that everyone else is somehow like not able to enter into that same eternal space, what have you, at the end of it all, then you're the one who's actually dwelling in shadow and will enter into that space with your head on fire. You have to be more compassionate, more loving, more forgiving, more just considerate to the concepts of, the thing about like these people who think that you have to be so good to get anywhere, within the framework of their religions. That's not even why churches exist. They're not meant for people like if you do well throughout your day to day, this and that, you don't really the mind is a temple, and so a church is where you keep it, and so that's kind of the thing goes. If you want to actually help people who are suffering, then you actually have to be with the people that are quote unquote suffering, and not just say, all right, well, you go get yourself clean, get yourself fixed up, and get yourself right, and then you can be amongst us. You're kind of missing the whole point of what any of that fellowship is supposed to even be built around. So, this is it's a very interesting kind of subject, which is why we probably spent a good half hour here just talking about it. I
definitely wanted to.
No, it's definitely one that's good to go in a little bit deeper, because these things, the reason I like doing the show with you is because this is one of those spaces on the internet where it's not 20 shades of gray, where it's all ostensibly kind of the same thing every day, we're just interchanging the subject, but we're still saying the same words. I think that we are able to go a little bit more in depth here, at least from people that I get feedback from, things like that. They appreciate the willingness to actually get further into these subjects than just going around a constant carousel of nonstop bullshit where we're just having the same show every week. So and so I think it is important to actually kind of consider these matters, and I don't think that you or I are really sitting here trying to tell anybody how they should think about anything specifically. Just saying that maybe you should think about it, and decide for yourself, and we're just kind of a point of just, I guess, an inception point for people to kind of take these perspectives into account, and then apply that in your own life however you see fit. If you think that either of us are full of shit, then you don't really have to go along with it. But if there's something that's decent being spoken here, it's because I think that we are actually trying to approach this with some level of consideration and clarity. And even for these people that we're talking about, that I think I don't think I'm wrong when I say that I think that we both find them to be people that are being exploited, and they're kind of being caught up in these weird kind of victimization paradigms, that being abused leads to being abuser, and so on and so forth, and all that kind of stuff. And so
to actually hurt people, right?
Right. And to get beyond that, you have to kind of start actually kind of giving a shit about yourself, so that you can have enough of an abundance to care for other people. And I think that that's kind of the stumbling block that some people get into. It's almost like the guy who goes out and spends $5,000 on biking equipment and gets this ultra high end top end bike, and somehow thinks that's going to make him a better cyclist. And it's that's not how it works. You could give somebody who's got the talent, skill, and ability the worst violin probably in the world that you could find. They could probably still make something that would just melt your heart, or just contort your mind and go how does this even exist? So I think that getting caught up in the superficial trappings of it all is kind of where we're finding ourselves in this Goonergate, kind of topic that's come to bear, because this is far more internalized and introspective of a situation than to go and try to make this something that can just have, a quote unquote, binary right or wrong kind of way of looking at it. We all have our roads to tread, and, whether or not we find ultimate judgment and forgiveness in our own lives, in our own paths, is truly on our own, walk to, going through the journey is in many ways more important than the destination, because the destination for everyone is death. So, like that's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to, I certainly have strong opinions on certain things, but they generally kind of, they kind of come down to the idea of, innocence lost can be at any age. And once that kind of goes away, then you're forever changed, and so I can understand some of these people who don't want people's quote unquote innocence to be preyed upon. And by all means, I'm right there with you. But for people that have had a rougher road than you, to sit here and tell them, at this point in time that, they're basically damned to hell and all this kind of stuff, that gets into that whole aspect of being pride and scornful, which that's like the work of the devil, I will make you be good. You can't do that. That's not what it is.
Right. Well, we have to choose. And I think the best way is to be the standard. That's what I'm saying. Like, if that's what you want. And,
right. Much like you're wearing a
if you
Superman
change-
shirt right now.
if you have yeah, right. I didn't even think about that. If you have an effect on someone and like one person and they like change course, that's like, what more could you ask for? So somebody in the chat said something I wanted to comment on. This kind of like sums up what I'm getting at. Gal Pal Val says, as of right now, Melanie Mac has no power over our choice. Maybe it will be an issue down the road, but the real enemy at this point are the people that actually control the gaming industry. Yes.
Exactly.
And I think that in the way that she's hoping to influence others, if we are, stay the course and remain focused, we can actually probably influence her. So I'm not going to say anything unless like it comes up, because I think that, it's like I said, these guys, they want change now. They want to like change the world. And we're just not at that place where that can happen, because this is not heaven. This is earth. And people are flawed here. And we make, they're going to like whatever they're going to do, they're going to do. And that includes you. Nobody's exempt from this. So, okay. Robert Johnson says Cthulhu relies on the lie. Yes. My friend Mike, who I'm going to see tomorrow, has said that. And then Cloud Strife said something that I thought was interesting. He says the thing that is annoying to Christians who aren't converts or born again is that this purity mindset pushes more people away from Christianity. Yes. I've run into this too. Like, people find Jesus and all of a sudden some they just they think everybody needs to be, changed by this. And this, look, the thing is, it's not obviously not unique to Christianity. Like, no. the Muslims do it, the wokies do it, it's like what you find. Like, even people who are like let's say like tremendously attached to their sort of Enlightenment liberal values, like these James Lindsay types, they are also like religiously committed to this. Right. And so what we need is to like, let people figure it out, and they will. Right. Like whatever like, will be.
Yeah, the secular religion that emerged 5 years ago of get vaccinated, do your part for the betterment of everyone. And it's like, yeah, no. And how many of those people, wanted us not only like put in camps, but some of them were like, well, they should, be made to suffer specifically. And if they die from it, so be it. And, and as time has bore out, like, what that was all about, it was what a lot of us initially said, that this is, this is a money grab and a way to destabilize global economies from small businesses, and kind of create this techno-feudal fascist control scheme that is set to kind of occupy every waking moment of your ever waking life, and get so far deep into everything that you say, think, and do, that we'll have digital currencies that you'll have to spend in certain ways, and you'll only be able to get certain things based on your merits and this and that, which is basically a great game. The Great Rebellion is ultimately kind of talking about, and it's, you know, in the world that it's set in.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, that's the last story. We should get into. I got a Rumble rant that I want to read, and we should look at some other things, some cake, I guess.
Indeed.
So the Rumble rant appears to be gone, but I can read it on the screen here. NobaFan21, thank you, NobaFan, gives $1 and says, at the end of the show, can you check the number of people playing Friday the 13th? The servers shut down at the end of last year. Yeah. I will. We will look at it, but then I'll only be able to see if it's like on PC. But I think that we'll see. We'll see. All right. So let's look at some sales numbers. I thought maybe it would be best to start with Dragon Age, the Veil Guard, because we were just talking about the absolute
in honor of
BioWare.
Corrinne's passing.
Yes, that's right. So 5,000 people. That doesn't sound good to me. I mean, like, yeah, it's steadily declining. That is really sad numbers. Yeah. So Riz Yoda says 5 stars for Doggo Cam. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot. If you guys could, you know, hit a like just for JoJo, who you know, he does all this hard work to entertain you guys.
Yeah.
By
yours is actually one of the mods on Will of the Fans and Reality Based is actually he's a new content creator, and I do streams with him.
Welcome to the show.
On Wednesdays. Indeed.
Yeah. Ears, is that his ears? Is that how you pronounce it?
Years, I believe. Yes.
Yours
Rhoda
has the Riz. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah. So not doing great. What are people saying about it? I don't know. But yeah, not doing great.
I apologize for any background noise. There's a squirrel on the other side of the wall.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, good. I can. So I'm glad no one else does.
So let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, Dustborn. How about Dustborn? How are they doing? 2. Oof. Oh no, this isn't Concord. Concord's got 0, I think, because it's been shut down for a while. But Dustborn's on 2. If there's any other games you want me to look at the numbers for, let me know. I'm going to search for Starfield. I always look up Starfield and Homeworld 3. So Starfield, 6,000. Like, this is not great. Not great for them. Homeworld 3, which 43 people are playing this. Oh no. Indiana Jones. Okay. I had no interest in this game. I didn't know anything about it, but I just I already own the Uncharted games. I think those games are great. And the Tomb Raider games. Why would I need it to have the brand Indiana Jones on it? So, so Indiana Jones, 3,355. That doesn't sound good, but people do like it. So the reviews are overall positive.
Right.
But it looks like it still underperformed from, because I like, did they get like Harrison Ford to do the voice?
No. It's God.
Because that would have made the game really expensive to make.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. It's one of the top 2 guys that voices everything. I can't think of who right now. Someone in the chat will probably shout it out to us here in a moment. But yeah, no, it was somebody who was doing Troy Baker. Yeah.
Oh, he's the guy who does the voice of Joel. I remember when The Last of Us 2 was coming out, Troy Baker virtue signaled when he virtue signaled about it. So yeah, Troy Baker. All right, yeah, well that makes sense. He is a good voice actor though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he does the voice of Loki. I don't know if anybody, it sounds nothing like Joel. So he's got some range, but he should probably shut up when it comes to politics.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing. Like, if you can find somebody who actually has good vocal control, they can do all sorts of crazy things with their voice. Like, you know, I'm sure I've mentioned her in recent shows, but Osaka Chandal, like her whole kind of the lore of her channel is that she's the essence of magic. that exists inside of a doll. And so when
she's a VTuber?
She is totally a VTuber. She actually, problematic white guy is actually. I've got an updated model that I will debut at some point in time here in the near future. I met her on Christmas Eve, and she was just like, "Can I help? Can I help you fix your VTuber, your Vroid?" And I was like, "I think it's all right." She's like, "You don't have a nose," but that's getting away from the point that I'm trying to get at. Is like a lot of people, like she's gotten some criticism from some people about how like they're like, well, you seem awfully monotone in the speaking sections, and it's like, well, that's the character. The character is a doll. It's an inanimate object that's being puppeted by the essence of magic. And so like she does this really great thing. Like the lore of her channel is amazing. If because it's the essence of magic. If you cross her, she will basically turn you into a doll, and then you'll be in her dollhouse forever. But what's cool about it, though, is she also is an amazing artist in a variety of ways. She actually she's a singer, and she has really, really good vocal control, which is why I bring it up. And so, like, when you hear the doll during the ghost stories and things like that that she does, it's to be like this ultimate counterbalance when she starts singing, because when she sings, it is some of the most just soulful, mind-bending music. I've basically become a J-pop fan, you know, in the last month, solely because of my burgeoning friendship with her. Like she is very talented and highly skilled, and I would say that for, you know, most voice actors that are of any prominence, they have the capacity to really augment their voice and make amazing kind of changes. Another one is like Stark of Iron, Tony Stark on YouTube and other platforms. I used to think that I did a fairly decent Beavis, but I haven't really done it so much the last few years. And then I met him, and he can actually do Beavis and Butthead in conversation. He does Rick and Morty, Hank Hill, like so many great. And so like, yeah, if you actually have, it's like you know, takes talent, skill, and ability. And if that's your instrument and you're a master at it, you can do all sorts of things with it that anybody else would just kind of like, you know, pluck away at the guitar, as compared to like, say, like, you know, Eddie Van Halen, like, you know, playing Eruption. It's completely different worlds.
Yeah. All right. Well, then nice. Maybe she could be a guest on my channel, and we'll VTube together. So, indeed. We'll do whatever VTubers do. Yeah, mention it to her. All right. So that was Indiana Jones. Apparently, it's just an interactive movie. This is like the thing about like that really concerns me, by the way, with regards to video games, is that there is definitely a push to make them movies. And this is like another bit of evidence for that. And I think that games are games and movies are movies. And one of the reasons why this is happening is that movies are losing their relevance because more people are either on social media or they're playing video games as their entertainment. And it's partly because movies have gone to shit, but I think that it's also because that like gaming is just like another level of engagement. Yeah, that movies can't really accommodate for. Although movies can still tell really, really good stories, but they don't tell good stories anymore. So that's like putting them on the back foot. And so what they're doing is, I think they're basically saying, well, let's just make games like movies. Then we don't have to like level up and make good games, but we also don't have to worry about writing better movies. We'll just like cut out that, you know, middleman and just like sneak into this, you know, into this medium.
Yeah, well, it's the same issue that brought up earlier about trying to cast your net too wide and make these things that are, you know, for everyone. The movie industry, I think, is you know, the most glaring example of how like they lost their audience because they didn't, you know, focus on actually finding one, and instead they just tried to get everybody into the theater to see like, you know, like all this CGI porn or like, you know, whatever kind of like, you know, fantastical bullshit that, you know, is supposed to be so captivating, but a really good movie will resonate with you. You'll walk away from it, you'll be, you know, transfixed and you know, like you think about it all the time. Again, to bring up David Lynch, like there's a reason why I love his works is because they're not made for everyone, but anyone who kind of like, you know, approaches it will have their own kind of thing that they take away from it, even if it's fuck that was weird. Or then you'll have people like me who sit here and like, you know, just kind of like, you know, like develop a whole philosophy on life, and you know, it completely just kind of transfixes the way that I even view the world.
but yeah, like games are far more capable to doing that because that interactive mechanism, and it's not so blandly passive as so many modern movies are.
Yeah.
Looks
I
like
got
another
a super chat. Yeah,
Yep.
from Dean Domino. He says some games, Demon Tides, Partisan, and 13Z. Are you saying to look up the trailers for, or look up the sales for? All right, so I'll wait to your answer. I'm looking at the chat, so I'll see it. But
Yeah.
Pal World, 108,000 people still playing it. So it looks like it's remained pretty steady. I mean, the fact that it has like an aesthetic that is similar to Pokemon, I think probably helps a lot. And then we have the request that was sent to me by NovaFan21. Friday the 13th, the game is actually still got players, despite the fact the server shut down at the end of last year. 48 people. Okay, just want to point out, though, Concord has 0.
Yeah.
And Concord came out last year. Friday the 13th has 48 people, and it came out in 2017.
Yep.
So
yeah.
And look, I still think this game is great. I do.
Oh, yeah.
With the right people, it's a blast to play. So yeah, we have 48 people still playing it on PC. That doesn't really include, because I don't think it was cross-platform.
No, I don't think so.
I have it for the PlayStation, but I don't think it was cross-platform. But I will say that this is a game that should, they probably have private servers. This is a game that I think should continue to exist. There should be some way to just play it like with your friends, a local, not local, but like
ad hoc.
Yeah, like some kind of like LAN party type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being a lot of fun.
Well, I think that's kind of one of the things that all these big networks that were built for Sony, for Microsoft, even to some degree Nintendo, like you go through these central servers as a choke point rather than allowing for the private server. And I think that if I were in game development, I would caution anybody who just wants to go and say, well, let's put this on our servers and do this and that. It's like, well, sure, we can have that as an option, but you should always have the private server, because there will come a day when ultimately you sunset
the servers down.
Right.
That's why, I mean, Counter-Strike is still being played. It's still like one of the top games. I think maybe it's because they're not shutting the servers down, but there's definitely games where, it used to be the case that you can just make a server and play with your friends, I think.
Yeah.
Like Alien versus Predator, for example, on PC, or Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Some of these old, Quake, Unreal Tournament. I think that that's obviously gone the way of the dodo, and I think that a lot of it has to do with Microsoft, because when they gave us the Xbox, I think it was the Xbox, when they started Xbox Live, and even the PS3 still, it had a network, but it was not doing like dedicated servers. They were like saying,
it
the
was still ad hoc.
Yeah, it was basically like the games can do it on their own. Like if you were a publisher, you want it online, you can do it. And people complained about that because they didn't think it was very like ease of use, and there were issues. And I remember my friends telling me that, oh, you should just do the Xbox Live, because then you don't have to worry about but I was like, yeah, but you have to pay for that. They're like, oh, that's worth the money. It's like, I don't know, because if you're paying for it and then Microsoft just says, we're gonna close these down now. Like, what if, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, why are we paying for something that already exists? Like, the online is a thing that exists. I'm already paying, Cox or AT&T for my internet. Like, know?
And that's why ultimately these dumbed down systems that are meant to serve a wider group of people, I really wish that we had a more technically savvy kind of society that actually understood the technology that they're so enthralled and enchanted
by. We could get there.
We could but it's going to take a change in paradigms, and it's going to have to start at our level, with people, like that the AA developers and things like that we talk about, the independents actually creating market spaces that people gravitate to, so they can actually have those choices and options and learn how to be a little bit more discerning. It's good to have knowledge, Yeah,
it is. All right, next we got because we got to wrap it up here. We only got a few minutes left. Path of Exile, sitting at 280,000. Path of Exile 2. I don't know if this. I've heard good things about this game. I guess it's a Diablo killer, which, you know, that there might be something to that. You let me know. Have you guys played it? Do you know much about Path of Exile 2? I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments. And then we have the latest, like, absolute monster online, Marvel Rivals, at 355,000 players. It has dipped a bit, but it's only been out for, you know, like what, a month?
Right.
Yeah, like a month and some change. So, and the official first season started like last week. So there you go. That's where we're at on some of those. Now I'll look at these trailers.
Player numbers. If you look down at the numbers at the bottom, I mean, 355,000 from 644,000 peak is still pretty optimal, and that's just
it's
in the last 8 days. Like, what's the lifetime peak number on there?
Is it max?
I think so.
Oh, the 24 players right now, all-time peak 644,000 is the all-time.
Well, that
peak,
says 8 days ago.
Yeah,
okay.
But that's the
okay. So all right, so it's just saying that's when it was. So there you go.
That's when that's when the first season officially dropped and they released Invisible Woman.
Right. That's when
the
Sue Storm came out that you were talking about.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
that's right.
indeed.
Yes. Okay, so let's take a look at some games. Demon Tides. This is on YouTube, so we'll see how it looks. And I'm just bringing it up now. How long is this trailer? Okay, there is like 2 minutes. All right, hold on a second. I apologize. Okay, so we're going to share this tab, and this is Demon Tide. So let's take a look. So it's like a platformer.
What do you want?
There we go. Now I'm back.
Oh, did you drop? Oh, shit.
Yeah, just for a second. I really need to get new hardware. Even your PC.
Yeah.
Talking time, yo.
Graffiti.
That looks sick.
Well, it's probably gonna be proud of this. Anyway, you know what, John? When you drop out, it doesn't change what my screen looks like.
Oh, I know.
Nobody knows. Yeah,
I know.
So,
I actually kind of like that's part of the reason why we came up with this plan. Where it's like I just do voice now, and like PWG is there in your studio rather than like having to like dial in. So yeah, works well.
yeah. All right. I tried to look up Partisan. I don't see it. So maybe I have to go into the Steam store, or Steam itself, and see if I'll find it there. So I'm going to go to Steam charts, perhaps, and in Steam, and see if I can find it there and look it up. Meanwhile, let me get the last game on your list, 13Z, and see if that comes up. So 13Z game playtest. I just want a trailer. So yeah, here we go, trailer. And okay, announced trailer, global playtest. Let's do the more recent one. It's only a little bit longer, and I'll put it on the screen so you guys can watch this. There you go. Okay. Oh, did my internet go down? Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Okay, we're still here. Okay.
Yeah.
13th Zodiac. Like, I really want to say this reminds me of Okami, but I think that's just kind of I don't know, like a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I think on that note, before the wonky web bites in the ass again.
Well, I got one. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna wrap it up. I got one more thing to look at because I did get it up and he gave me a super chat for this, so I should look at it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. This is Partisan, and this is on the Steam store. So let me turn the volume and let's take a look.
It's evidently just the cell shaded games that caused my system to. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it looks good. Partisan is a brutal and satisfying action-oriented immersive sim set in a brutalist dystopia ruled by an oppressive regime, rip and tear through militias, bureaucrats, and gunked-up quarantine zones until the world knows your name. All right. Yeah, it sounds good. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the show there. I just closed those windows.
Indeed.
So don't worry about that. And thanks, guys, for coming on. So I have this is still Ninjanuary, so I have live playthroughs of a couple of ninja games coming up this week. I'm devoting all of January to ninjas. So if you dig ninjas, you should subscribe to the channel and check out what I'm going to be showing off. Also, next weekend is the Game Jam, and I'm going to be streaming that as well on this channel, and we'll be looking at the Game Jam games and doing the judging, and we're going to have some good people on there, like Ian Crossland and Andrew Wilson and Cabrutus Rambo himself. Nice. And they'll be looking at that. That's next weekend. And tomorrow we're doing a meetup here in Roanoke, Virginia for Honey Badger Radio. I'm going to be meeting up at the Five Guys, local Five Guys in Roanoke. If you want to know more about that, send me a message, go into my Discord. I'll give you the details. And it's going to be me and Lindsay and Hannah. These are all people from my other job. Hannah, Dr. Ranimercam, or Mike and Lauren, and maybe JoJo, maybe, because it depends. Like when JoJo might make an appearance, but I can't. He's going to have to get back to me. Talk to his his assistant to figure out what is a good time. So we may actually get to see JoJo as well. Yeah. So anyway, that's basically the plan. Got more content coming out. Got stuff going on this weekend. I'm going to be in DC for the inauguration, and I want, if you guys are going to be going to DC, maybe I'll see you there. Again, go to my Discord server. The link is in the description. If you have a problem with that, leave a comment under my video, and I'll hook you up. And also check out the FFS server that John set up. We're all in there. A bunch of people are in there. And it's a big place. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been gaining numbers like all this week. Like I'm up over 250 YouTube subs at this point in time. I had like 20 new subs in just the last few weeks alone. Mainly because I started doing late night game streams with Sonia Lisette, playing. Like I jokingly refer to myself as her. Her moral guide and mental I'm her moral support and mental anguish all at the same time while she's playing through Super Mario Brothers games.
Yeah.
But yeah, doing that has actually been a boon on my subs. And then the FFS Discord, we're up to 265 members. I think actually might even be a little bit over that now. Because I think a couple people just joined yesterday as well. So yeah, things for me are definitely on the up. After this, I'm going to be doing some more production work for the Scooby Pup podcast this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern. Be what 2 p.m. or let's see, 2 p.m. Pacific, and then we're doing not Who TF live tomorrow. We're doing WTF live Sunday edition because Doctor Who is kind of in a fugue state, I guess is the nice way of saying it. And then we got Reality Based tomorrow. I don't think that we're having any special guests that I'm aware of just yet. It's kind of like a little bit of a foul period. I guess I was too busy with birthday stuff this week to get anybody tacked in. But yeah, things are going really good. Actually going to be doing a guest spot next week on Master Swag King's channel on Wednesday night. So that'll be something a little bit new and different. And then other than that, I just do my standard weekly stuff, always at the FFS Discord. Probably one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me. At Problematic John is an easy way to find me on either X or YouTube if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff. And I will drop my FFS Discord link here in the chat as we're signing off. But yeah, other than that, I just want to thank you again for another great show and a rousing conversation that really gets into the heart of the matter on these things. And yeah, other than that, safe travels ahead. Wonderful weekend going forward. Be awesome as always.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today. And please, please, please share this stream because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture. And I'll see you guys in the next one, assuming that I don't get arrested by feds on Monday.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people. And maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.